Hi, my name is Aubrey. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I'm going to be doing a full library audit and unhaul. So over the course of several months, I have been creating a stack of books to unhaul, which is normal for me if I read a book that I didn't enjoy or I just realize that I don't want a certain book anymore. I tend to set it aside for an unhaul video. And once that stack had reached a certain height, I felt like it was time to go ahead and unhaul those books. However, I have been in kind of a decluttering, unhaul-y mood lately, and I am feeling ruthless. I am feeling cutthroat. And I decided that actually, on top of unhauling the stack of books that I have, I want to go shelf by shelf, really evaluate what I have and whether or not I'm still interested in reading and owning that book. So I'm going to start with the stack of books that I have here ready to unhaul, and then I'm going to be making my way around the library. So first up, I have a series you may have seen before in another one of my unhauls, but it is the Jacoby Quartet by William Ritter. I had these in my last unhaul and I changed my mind and I decided that I at least wanted to try them before passing them along. And I did try Jacoby. I thought it was just okay, and I think that I am not in a place where I really want to continue on with the series. This is like a paranormal mystery series. It's YA. I probably would have loved this a lot more as a teenager or preteen. As it stands, I just don't think it's something that I'm going to enjoy now, which is okay. So I'm going to pass these along. Next, I have Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson, and this is the Barnes & Noble edition. This is just a case of redundancy, so I did end up buying the Fairy Loot editions, which match my other Fairy Loot editions of the Remnant Chronicles, so I will be keeping that set instead and passing this one along, though it is really pretty. I didn't love this book enough to have 2 copies of it, so I am unhauling this. Next up, I have In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Klune, and this is just a matter of not really liking this edition. I mean, it is beautiful, like it is a beautiful edition, but it doesn't match the other TJ Klune books. And TJ Klune's like team, his publishers, whoever's in charge of his book releases has created like a beautiful cohesive aesthetic to his books that I love very much. This just unfortunately doesn't match that aesthetic, so I don't really want to keep it. I like that all of his books look really good together, and so whenever I do get around to repurchasing this and reading it, I don't know, I kind of just want the regular edition. But yeah, this is really pretty and I'm sure someone will be very happy to have it. Next up is The City of Dusk by Tara Sim, and this is the Fairy Loot edition. This was one of the first books we got in our subscription. I just have not heard super glowing things about it. Like the reviews seem to be a little bit mixed, and I just don't think that I'm that interested in reading it. The 4 realms, life, death, light, and darkness, all converge on the City of Dusk, ruled by the 4 noble houses of Nexus. The City of Dusk is the first in a sweeping epic fantasy trilogy set in a gorgeous world of dark magic, vengeful gods, and rebellious chosen ones. Yeah, I just think this is one that I'm going to pass on. Next up, I have Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. This one is very unfortunate because this is a really pretty edition. This is the Illumicrate edition. It's got like the rainbow foiling and pretty sprayed edges. Unfortunately, I just did not vibe with this book at all. This is like a quirky fantasy murder mystery set on a voyage with like a bunch of heirs of the 12 providences of Concordia. I wanted to love this, and on paper I really should have loved it, but the humor was just not for me. It was really, really over the top, very tongue-in-cheek, a lot of like fourth wall breaking, looking into the camera, pop culture references, weird world building elements for like a fantasy world. Like I remember there being hot dogs and tissue boxes and things that like don't belong in a historical fantasy that this was like trying to be. The tone and humor of this just didn't work for me, and that's okay. I don't really see myself returning to this or trying it again. I'm just gonna pass it along. I think somebody else will be much happier to have this than me. Next up is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. I liked this book. book, but I didn't love it. It was like a solid 3-star, and while it is stunning and beautiful and I would love to keep it, I don't really like holding on to books unless they were an absolute favorite, something that I want to think about, something that I might return to, and I just didn't have strong feelings about this one way or the other. I felt like there were parts of this that I did really enjoy, like I liked the Chinese mythology and folklore, I liked the fairy tale feeling of it, I liked our main character for the most part, but I didn't totally love the writing style, which kind of kept us at a distance from the characters and what was going on. Some parts of the novel felt really rushed and like the pacing felt strange to me. And then at the end there was a really unnecessary love triangle and a trope that I really hate. Overall, a book that I thought was fine, but not one that I think I will return to. So I will be passing this one along as well. These next editions really hurt. I am going to be unhauling the Belladonna trilogy by Adeline Grace. These are the UK editions. They are so beautiful. I love these covers so much. I thought for sure I was going to love this trilogy. It's dark and gothic, and I'd just been hearing such wonderful things about it. I went in expecting just like a fun YA time, and unfortunately I was just met with something very mediocre. At least I found it to be mediocre. All of the characters felt super flat to me. Our main character was kind of unlikable and naive and very, I don't know, a product of her time, which didn't really endear her to me. The mystery was really silly and predictable, and the romance and the romantic interests were all really flat and boring. Even Death himself, who was probably the most interesting character by far, was still just not totally convincing to me, I guess. I wasn't like super invested in him, and I was not invested in he and our main character's romance. So yeah, a solid 3-star. I ended up DNFing Foxglove because she repeated the same trope twice, where we have another eternal entity, fate, falling in love with a teenage girl. It just didn't sit well with me to do it twice. And so of course I never even got to Wisteria. That's okay. You live and you learn. These are super stunning. Someone will be very happy to have them. Next I have Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. And honestly, this is just a matter of like really not liking this edition. So this is the Fairy Loot edition. I just don't like this color scheme. I think that the regular editions of this are much more appealing to me personally. Like the US edition that's black and gold is super pretty, and I just don't really love this. I think the sprayed edges came out really wonky, and it's just sort of a weird disjointed edition. So like underneath is this hot pink, which is really cool, but like it doesn't really go with the edges. I'm just not really a fan, so I'm going to be passing it along. If I choose to read this series in the future, I think I'll just be picking up the regular editions of it. It's inspired by Antony and Cleopatra, and I believe it involves people being able to like body jump and there being some kind of like epic fight to the death competition type thing. I've heard kind of mixed things about this series, but I'm like somewhat intrigued. I may or may not pick it up in the future, but I don't want this edition. All right, and last in my stack is Shanghai Immortal by A.Y. Chow, and I've decided to pass on this one because the reviews are just not very good. It's set in Jazz Age Shanghai. It's about a half vampire, half fox spirit who it sounds like is trying to keep a priceless dragon pearl from being stolen from the king. And like I said, the reviews for this are just not that good. It's got a 3.38 on Goodreads, which is pretty low for Goodreads. I'm going to unhaul this because I just think that I personally am never going to get around to reading it. In general, I think I might be getting rid of a fair amount of special editions that I've accumulated through my subscription boxes. I've been really reevaluating my relationship with my special edition subscription boxes as of late. I did make the decision very recently to unsubscribe from Illumicrate. I just feel like the quality of the books that they've been choosing over the years has gone down. Like, not necessarily that the special editions themselves have gone down in quality. I just mean that like the books that they're picking, I have been less and less happy with. Besides which, the shipping for any sequel books has gone up astronomically. So if you're unfamiliar, the subscription itself, they do have a warehouse somewhere in the United States, and so the boxes ship from the US and the shipping is not that expensive, but they've made the decision that any and all sequels and like other sets of books will be coming from the UK, and the shipping prices have gotten so expensive. So that means that if I get the first book in a series from Illumicrate, if I later on want the sequel is going to be like twice as much. And so it's just not really worth it to me anymore. I have kept my Fairy Loot subscription for now because I am much happier with that subscription, but even still, I am trying to be much better about like using all of my skips and really researching the books that are coming through. All right, so we are going to get on to the audit portion of the video. As I'm going around my library, I'm going to be asking myself 2 questions. Number 1, if this book disappeared from my house, would I go out of my way to re-obtain it? Question number 2, if the answer to question number 1 is yes, if this book is unread, and if this were the last book on my TBR, would I pick this book up today, or would I drive my ass to Barnes & Noble and buy something else? Like I said, I'm feeling kind of cutthroat. I'm feeling ruthless. I want some of this stuff out of here. And it's not really a matter of space because I actually got 2 new bookshelves for Christmas. So I actually feel like I have a good amount of space. It's more just that I don't like that feeling of a lot of TBR books yelling at me. You know, when you feel like you just have a really long to-do list. I feel like I have reached a certain threshold of like unread books that I am starting to feel really overwhelmed by. In general, I actually really like having a fair amount of unread books. I like the potential. It really excites me. But I think the years of consuming BookTube and being on BookTube have really skewed my ratio of read to unread books. And so I'm just hoping to alleviate some of that feeling of overwhelm, I think. Yeah, library audit, let's go. So this is what we're working with. You can see that the shelves are a little bit messy at the moment, but the point of this video is not to organize or straighten anything up. That is going to be for a different video. Today, we're just going through and unhauling books. All right, so starting up here, I absolutely love A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm definitely keeping this. The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, I'm still interested in reading. All Systems Red, I'm definitely still interested in reading. A Natural History of Dragons I really loved. These, I think I might unhaul. The Black Prism series by Brent Weeks. I've heard really great things about it. The fact of the matter is, though, it's really low on my priority list. Once upon a time, I was super excited to read the series, but the last book got really mixed reviews, and since then, I have lost interest in it somewhat. I think this is a series I will get around to someday, but I don't see myself getting around to it anytime soon, like anytime soon. And it just got a cover change, and so completing my set with the remaining 2 books in matching covers will be difficult now. I think I'm going to pass these on and pick them back up whenever I'm actually ready to read them. So next up we have The Wheel of Time, these 4 random books in the series. I think I might be unhauling these also. I'm going to keep this first one because tracking this cover down was kind of difficult and I just really like it. Like, I like how it looks compared to the original cover, and so this edition of the tall paperbacks is like kind of hard to find. But so I very randomly have Lord of Chaos book 6, Crossroads of Twilight book 10, and Winter's Heart book 9. And again, this is just a series that I don't see myself getting to like anytime soon. Not within the next several years. I don't know. There's just so many other fantasy series that I'm way more interested in than this. I do love that these don't have the ugly Amazon sticker on them, but finding a full set of these now would be very difficult. And so that doesn't really feel like a good reason to hold on to these. So yeah, I think I'm going to unhaul these as well. Again, I know this is a well-loved series, Wheel of Time, very famous, very beloved. It's not a matter of like, I'm never going to read it. It's just a matter of like, I don't see myself getting to it anytime soon, and I don't need these taking up space on my shelves until then. Malice by John Gwynne, I'm definitely still keeping. I'm really interested in this series. And where did my other ones go? I moved these down because they were falling over, but The Shadow of the Gods and The Hunger of the Gods, still keeping these. I'm definitely still interested in keeping everything on these shelves, but over here, the Magician's Trilogy by Lev Grossman. I have had these forever. I've just kind of lost interest in this series. Again, I think it's a situation of like, never say never. Like, I'm not saying that I will never read these, but I have a lot of series that I would prioritize over reading this. And again, these have been on my shelves forever. Also from the shelf, I think I'm going to let go of the Starlit Wood. This is a collection of short stories, and I'm just not much of a short story person. I mean, it does have some authors that I really love and am interested in, so Shauna Maguire and Naomi Novak, but I just don't see myself ever actually sitting down to read this, so I'm gonna let it go. Alright, so scooching over here, we have some of my sci-fi. Winter's Orbit I really loved, and I haven't read the spin-off Ocean's Echo, but I am looking forward to it. This is The Principle of Moments by Esme Jacami Pearson. I think if this disappeared from my collection, I would pick it up again. This sounded very intriguing to me when we got it from Illumicrate. Don't ask me what it's about now. But it sounded really good. Unmissable for fans of the spacefaring found family of Becky Chambers and the alternate London of V. Schwab and the virtuesque climate craft of N.K. Jemisin. So, I mean, those are big shoes, but I don't know. I'm still intrigued by this one. These are my Children of Time editions from the Broken Binding. I definitely would reacquire these. I just read this and I loved it, and I'm looking forward to the sequels. The Cinder series by Marissa Meyer, I would definitely reacquire these. I love these books. I haven't finished the series, but I did love what I read. These are A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Again, definitely would reacquire these. I just read this one at the end of last year. Again, I loved it, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the books. This book, Some Desperate Glory, I don't even remember what this is about, and therefore I don't think that I would bother replacing it if it disappeared, so I'm going to unhaul it. Alright, so down here are a lot of my aardvark books. This is a growing collection. I am going to be keeping all of these for the moment. I am planning to do like a review for aardvark, but this book, Whoever You Are, Honey, by Olivia Gatwood, was kind of disappointing to me, so I will be unhauling this in the future when that review video is out, but I'm going to keep it for now just to have in case I want it for that video. And then swinging over here to more sci-fi, I definitely want to keep all of these, but Axiom's End and Truth of the Divine, these are by Lindsay Ellis, who is a video essayist here on YouTube, and I'm a big fan of her, and so I bought these because I am a fan of her. However, the reviews, especially for this first book, are kind of low, and the higher reviews are very clearly by like fans of hers. And to be honest, I've been really scared to pick this up because I don't want to be disappointed by it. Like, I'm really afraid of it being bad and me not liking it. And so honestly, if these disappeared from my shelves, I think I would be relieved. And so I'm going to unhaul them. I'm glad to have bought them and given her my money and my support, but I just don't think I actually want to read them. Poster Girl by Veronica Roth. I don't think I would go out of my way to replace this book, but if I saw it in a thrift store, I think I would still pick it up. I do love dystopian. I've been struggling with it lately just because of like the state of the world, but when I'm in the mood for a dystopian, I could definitely see myself really wanting to pick this up. And while I didn't really love Red Rising, I am interested in finishing the trilogy. I've heard much better things about Golden Sun, so one of these days I will get around to that. So I'm going to hold on to these. And Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I really loved this book, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the books in this series as well. Alright, so over here we have one of my favorite YA series, the Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson, and the sequel series Dance of Thieves. Definitely keeping these. The Gilded Wolves series by Roshani Chokshi. I'm definitely still interested in reading this. The Sun and the Void by Gabriela Romero LaCruz. I've just heard very mixed, mediocre things about this book. It is a stunning edition by Illumicrate. Like, I really, really love this edition, but I know for a fact that if this disappeared from my library, I would not go out of my way to pick it back up again, so I'm going to unhaul it. And the same goes for The Ones We Burn by Rebecca Mix. This was a Fairy Loot edition, and again, it's really beautiful. Like, the cover art that they did on the reverse dust jacket is stunning, and I love this edition. But again, if this disappeared from my library, I would not go out of my way to pick it up again. If I saw it in a thrift store, I would not pick it up again, so I'm gonna unhaul it. The rest of these are gonna stay, though. So I'm definitely skipping over shelves where there are no books that I want to unhaul, but down here, this is a little corner of books that I hauled in my last haul. And to be honest, there are a couple in here that I think I'm going to get rid of. This one of Jade and Dragons by Amber Chen. This was an Illumicrate edition. It is really pretty. Like, it is a really lovely edition. And I think this is one where I may have either forgotten to skip in Illumicrate, or I may have not been able to skip for some reason. I think they were starting to limit how many times you could skip in a row. And so I got this one. I thought I might be interested in reading it, but again, to be honest, if this disappeared from my library, I wouldn't even remember that I had it, let alone like go searching for it. So I think I'm going to pass it on. The God and the Gumiho, I am still kind of interested in. I like this cover. I've heard good things about this book. It sounded cute and fun. I think I'm still interested in reading this. I'm definitely keeping all of these. Watermoon, I didn't totally love, but I just bought it, so I'm not really ready to part with it just yet. So I'm definitely keeping this set from the Broken Binding. Goddess of the River, again, this is another Illumicrate edition that I think either I forgot to skip. They may have not let me skip. It's a beautiful book, a gorgeous edition. I think the reviews for this are actually pretty high. So I'm sure it's a good book. I don't know. I'm just personally more of like a fairy tale person than like a gods and goddesses mythology type person. And I just don't think, I know that I would not go out of my way to re-pick this up. And so I'm going to pass it on. Down here on this shelf, I know that I have gone on and on about how much I did not enjoy Night Film. And yet, I'm still curious enough about the ending that I'm gonna hold on to this. Beast of Extraordinary Circumstance. I keep going back and forth on this book. The reviews are stellar. Like, the reviews on Goodreads are stunning, glowing. People seem to really love this book. I think it's more literary fiction than fantasy, but I have been getting back into literary fiction lately. I found this for $5, and I think that if this disappeared and I found it yet again for $5, I would probably pick it up again. So I'm going to hold on to it for a little bit longer and hopefully actually read it. The Left Hand of the Sun King by J.T. Greathouse. I bought this because Patrick Leo really loved it and raved about it. However, his reviews for the sequels have not been quite as glowing. And to be honest, I've lost a bit of interest in this since then, simply because I just haven't heard anyone else talk about this series. And so I think I'm going to be letting this one go. I'm also going to be getting rid of Zahara by S.J. Jones, and simply for the fact that it is an Illumicrate edition and I am not going to be collecting the sequels from them. Like, I like this edition. I think it's pretty, but I don't like it enough to pay that much for the matching sequels. I had seen this compared to Sailor Moon, so it still interests me to read one day, perhaps, but I don't think I want to hold on to this edition. Lies We Sing to the Sea by Sarah Underwood. Again, I'm just not much of like a Greek retelling person. And I've also heard that the author didn't actually read the Iliad or whatever this was actually based on. Like, I'd seen some controversy that the author didn't do her research. So I think I'm going to pass this on. Feybound, I am still interested in trying, despite the mixed reviews. I don't know, this cover is just so stunning, and I still, like, I'm intrigued enough that I still want to try it. Forged by Blood, however, I think I am going to let go, simply because the reviews for this are so low. Like, they're really, really low on Goodreads. And while I do love this cover and I love this edition, I probably won't pick it up for fear of disappointment, so I'm gonna let it go. All right, so down here, I'm pretty happy with everything. The only two books that I'm questioning a little bit, one is this edition of The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten. This is the Fairy Loot edition. It is stunning, and I really love it. The issue is that I was not able to get the sequel in a matching edition from Fairy Loot, like it sold out so fast. And unfortunately, these look funnier next to each other than I thought they would. I don't know what to do. I think I'm gonna hold on to it for now in case they do a reprint, because maybe they will, especially when that third book comes out and the trilogy is complete. But yeah. And then the other book I'm questioning is Book of Night by Holly Black. I know that this has like very mixed, pretty low reviews, which is surprising for how popular and beloved Holly Black is. However, I do really love this edition. Like, I just really love it. I think it's so pretty with the black and the gold. I think the end paper art is super cool, and the naked hardcover as well. So I think I'm gonna hold on to it. And I'm at least gonna see how the second book is received, and at that point I may decide to unhaul it, but I don't know. I'm curious about this one enough to hold on to it for a little bit longer, I think. Alright, so up here in this little section, I'm still interested in this series. I have heard such good things about the first two books and not such good things about the last book, but I don't know, because I've heard such good things about the first two, I'm still very interested in the series, and if it disappeared from my house, I think I would still be like recollecting it. Tigana by Guy Gabriel Kay. Even though I'm not super in my fantasy bag at the moment, like I am still feeling a little bit of like high fantasy slump. I think, again, if I were to find this in a thrift store, like I found this edition, I would pick it up again. The Power by Naomi Alderman. I tried reading this book. I DNF'd it. I really wanted to love it. Like, I really wanted to get into it. It has such an interesting premise. Like, this is about women all over the world waking up and having, like, superpowers and therefore being more powerful than men all of a sudden. And the ways in which that, like, rocks the world, society and relationships. Again, I did try to get into it. I didn't get that far, so I only got 30 pages in. But there was something about the writing style that I think I found somewhat difficult, so I don't know. If this disappeared from my house, I think I would still be tempted to pick it up again, just because it sounds so interesting. Like, the premise is so cool. I don't know. If you have read this, please let me know what your thoughts were, because that might help me decide whether or not I want to keep this. Wool by Hugh Howey. I actually started my year trying to read this book, and I never talked about it because I DNF'd it, but to be honest, I was kind of surprised by how bad the writing was. It was originally self-published, so I understand that it was originally self-published, and it's just the kind of writing style where the author feels the need to tell me, like, every single little thing that's happening. Like, the protagonist steps on the cold metal stair, and the stair is worn thin from many other people being on the stairs, and the tip of his toe touches like the gleaming metal. You know, it's just like too much. Like, it's so detailed, and I set it down because I just couldn't handle like all of like the sensory overload of just like all of the information we were getting that seemed to be irrelevant. I kind of think that this is a series that I am gonna pass on. I may just end up watching the show instead, but yeah, I was not super a fan of this. All right, and then over here, I have this beautiful copy of The Curse of Saints by Kate Dramas. This is a Fairy Loot edition. This is a romantasy, I believe, and I do really love this glow up. Like, I love this cover compared to like the original cover, and I was keeping it because I just thought that on the off chance I ever read the series and liked it, that I would much prefer having these covers. But again, the sequel from Fairy Loot sold out very quickly, so like I won't have a matching set. Besides which, I probably won't like this in the first place because I have not been the biggest fan of romantasy. If this disappeared from my house, I don't think I would be running out to replace it. It is pretty, I do like it, but I think I'm gonna pass it along. The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. This edition is single-handedly so beautiful that it makes me want to read the book. Like, something about this is so pretty that I cannot bear to part with it. I know that it's Raylo fanfiction. I mean, look at the card that it came with. I know that the reviews have been kind of mixed and mediocre, but I'm gonna hold on to it and just give it a try for myself and see if I like it before getting rid of it. Even though if it disappeared from my house, I may not rush out to grab it. It's so pretty that without reading it, I cannot part with it. So that's gonna stay. I have 2 editions of Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. So I have the Illumicrate edition, which has this beautiful like stained glass design on the stenciled edges. And this edition by Fairy Loot, which I don't love the stenciled edges as much. However, I do love the end paper art, and I also love the naked hardcover. Like, look how pretty the naked hardcover is. I have not actually been keeping up to see if Fairy Loot is going to do a matching edition of this book or not for the sequel. I think that Illumicrate did announce that they are going to do a matching edition. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. In this moment, I was like, I'm definitely getting rid of the Fairy Loot edition, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm not sure. So I actually think that I might keep both just for now. This might be one where it's like I wait till I read it and see how I feel about it. If I absolutely love it, maybe I keep both editions. If I'm kind of meh about it, then I pick my favorite. But I don't know. For now, I can't choose. All right, so I'm actually on the other side of the room now with like my middle grade and my YA. And I am going to be pulling my Neil Gaiman books off of my shelves for now. If you don't know about the current Neil Gaiman controversy, feel free to look it up. I'm not going to go into it here, but I'm feeling very weird about having these books on my shelves at the moment, even though this is one of my favorite middle grade books of all time, with one of my favorite illustrators of all time. I don't know. Just every time I look at these, I feel sick. I don't know that I'm going to get rid of them yet. I haven't made that decision, but I am going to be boxing them up just for the time being because, separating the art from the artist is actually harder than it sounds. So I am going to be putting these away. I'm also going to be unhauling this very random Magnus Chase book. This is the only Rick Riordan book I own. It is book 2 in the Magnus Chase trilogy. I'm pretty sure I found this at like a library sale or something. It was really cheap. I want to say it was just $1 or something, and it's in great condition. And in that moment, I was like, well, I plan to at least try reading the Percy Jackson series. What if I love it and I want to collect all of the books in the Percy Jackson world? I might as well just pick this up while it's here. While I do still have plans to one day try Percy Jackson, it is so silly to have this on my shelves. It is so silly to keep this like completely random copy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and donate this, and when I'm ready to like properly read the series and collect it, I can re-pick it up then. So I think I'm also going to unhaul these. This is the Terrier trilogy by Tamora Pierce. Now Tamora Pierce is my girl. Like, I love the Song of the Lioness Quartet when I was young. Like, this was my jam. This was my shit. I loved this series so much. I did try to reread this as an adult. I didn't totally love trying to reread this, and I stopped because I didn't want to ruin my, my childhood memories, like my love of this series. These two I will keep for nostalgic purposes, but this series I've never actually read, and I kind of feel like I won't, so I'm going to unhaul them. I'm also going to unhaul this edition of Howl's Moving Castle because I did just recently get in the mail the beautiful Fairy Loot edition, so I don't need this paperback anymore. Over here, I randomly have this paperback of The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, and we actually just got like beautiful editions of this from the Broken Binding, so I don't need this paperback anymore. All right, and down here, I think I'm going to unhaul Crown of Feathers. Once upon a time, I was really excited to read this. I've just heard like mixed things about the sequels. I've just heard that they're maybe a little bit too YA for an adult to enjoy, and because of the mixed reviews, I just think I've lost interest in this. I am really interested in Nikki Palpretto's like newest duology, so I think I will still be checking that out, but this I am not so sure about. And then also from this shelf, I think I'm going to unhaul A Magic Steeped in Poison. Again, once upon a time, I was really excited to read this. It sounded like very magical and fun YA. However, the sequel book in this duology got pretty negative reviews, and it's kind of turned me off from reading this at all. All right, well, these are the final stacks of all the books that I unhauled in this video. If you were interested in any of these books yourself, I will try to have as many of these on my Pango. No promises that they will all make it there, but I will do my best. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I hope to see you next time. Bye!